Product backlogs become dumping grounds for every request, idea, and someday feature. It reminds me of car garages, where people store stuff that they don't need currently and park their car outside the garage. One of my clients is a software company delivering software to big pharmaceutical companies. Their product backlog had ballooned to over 400 items. When I asked which items delivered the most value, the product owner showed me a complex spreadsheet with weights scoring algorithms. Yet, when I asked, "What are you actually building next sprint?" he sighed and admitted, "Whatever the CEO mentioned in his meeting yesterday." There are three critical issues. First, product backlog grows endlessly without constraint. I've seen backlogs with thousands of items, mostly outdated and irrelevant, creating the illusion of future work. That's practically meaningless. Second, ordering becomes more political rather than value-based. Items get prioritized based on who shouts the loudest, which executive made the request, or what's easiest to build, not what delivers maximum value to customers and the business. Third, refinement becomes mechanical rather than collaborative. Teams slice items into perfect user stories that follow all the rules and conventions, but miss the crucial conversations about why an item matters and how it aligns with the product goals. In this video, I'll share how you can use length, ordering, and refinement to manage your list of requirements, or what is known as your product backlog. First step to backlog sanity is to impose strict limits on size. For most teams, I recommend a simple guideline. Your backlog should contain no more than 2 or 3 sprints of ready items, plus enough next horizon items to fill roughly the next quarter. I was working in a bank and they were building a client onboarding platform. I reduced their 300 item backlog to just 50 critical items. The product owner initially feared that they miss important work, but 6 months later, she admitted that only 5 items from the deleted 250 had actually resurfaced as truly necessary. Here's a practical approach. Gather all your stakeholders and tell them you're going to reduce the number of items in the product backlog only for the ones that you believe are going to be valuable. And ask your stakeholders what matters to them the most and start adding those items back into the product backlog. And draw some reference points of sprints that you might have. Maybe you deliver this in sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3. Just a high-level ballpark idea, not necessarily going to happen, but you have an idea of what you might be delivering in the next 2 or 3 sprints, or maybe even 5 sprints. A team in a bank I coached moved from their old Jira project into a new one and moved only 50 items to their product backlog from about 230 item backlog and discovered something remarkable. Stakeholders only advocated for the 50 items. The rest had become good to have items, not important to fight for, yet consuming energy through their mere presence. Most stakeholders were content with keeping those in the old project just in case they needed to refer to it later, which is perfectly fine. Second solution is to order by true value, not noise. Effective backlog ordering requires clarity about value. The Scrum Guide simply states items should be ordered by value, but what constitutes value is often unclear. I recommend creating some 3 to 5 value dimensions. That could be revenue, user satisfaction, ROI, strategic alignment, or potentially business value, and then group items that you have in your product backlog on those value dimensions and start rating them. Then I would create a 3x3 matrix. On the vertical axis, you have the customer impact. Horizontal axis, you have customer value. Now start putting on the 3 grids: high impact, low complexity, medium impact, low complexity, and low impact, low complexity. Now that you have that, you could start moving them to the right quadrant that these items might belong in. And then based on that, you can make certain decisions on which items are most important for you. You're going to start with the leftmost quadrant, the high impact, low complexity, and then move diagonally forward, working on the most high impact items that are being done with the least amount of effort. Another effective approach is the opportunity cost ordering. With each potential backlog item, ask the stakeholders, how much are they willing to pay for this item? And what is the cost by asking the team, What would it take to build this? What must be postponed or not at all? This forces concrete trade-off discussions rather than abstract prioritization exercises. Number 3 is to transform refinement from a meeting to a mindset. Yet most teams treat it as a tedious ceremony where they mechanically estimate story points. Instead, focus refinement on answering 3 questions. Why is this item valuable? I recommend adding value points on each item in the product backlog. 2 is how will we know when it's successful? Meaning, what is the acceptance criteria? And 3, what don't we understand yet? What are the risks and uncertainties? For this, I would recommend using the whole team approach. I recommend having 2 or 3 short product backlog refinement meetings in the middle of each sprint. In addition, have your product owner spend time directly with developers in their workspace. A software company I worked with implemented product owner office hours 3 times a week where developers could just drop in with questions. Another team, the product owner and the team would sit right next to each other. The resulting clarity reduced their implementation mishaps by over 40%. My recommendation would be to use all these 3 ideas. First, reduce the number of product backlog items using a value threshold. Then use an ordering framework with stakeholders. And then finally, conduct short and multiple product backlog refinement sessions. Your product backlog isn't a wish list or a requirements document. It's a living artifact that directs your team's attention towards what matters most right now. 6 months after implementing these practices, a product owner came back to me and told me, for the first time, I can actually remember every item in our backlog and clearly explain why it matters. When you constrain length, order by true value, and refine for understanding rather than mechanics, your backlog becomes a powerful force, maximizing outcomes rather than a bureaucratic burden. Your team's focus, your stakeholders' confidence, and your product success all depend on it. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel for more tips like these, and I'll see you next time.